play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Marsh!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire, live from Logan Airport, I believe, in Boston. And I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Jimmy. I hope this is working well.
Yeah, we got you. I'm happy I get to see your handsome face, my friend.
You only have me until about 10:35. I apologize, but
that's okay.
Flights, planes, trains, and automobiles.
That's beautiful. Living the John Candy life. There we go, my friend. And you are headed to Toronto for the Hall of Fame induction committee and announcement tomorrow. How excited are you for that?
It's every year you get so excited about the potential for the next class and the people that you're surrounded by in the room. It's just an amazing situation that I'm just so grateful to be a part of, and led by Lanny McDonald and Mike Gardner. But it's just a phenomenal opportunity and experience, and the preparation that everybody does, it's on the committee for all these potential candidates, is amazing. Every year I go, I'm blown away by just how thorough and how precise everybody is when it comes to gauging the potential candidates.
So I know you're not at liberty to talk about a lot of stuff when it comes to that, Pierre, but I guess one question I'll ask you, I think is general enough. So is how many times, like what's the most you've had to change a decision or way back and forth on decisions in the past?
No, that's a fair question. Myself, probably 3 or 4 times in 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
So not a lot. Like I said, a lot of preparation goes into this by everybody on the committee. Right. There are 18 of us, and everybody does a lot of homework when you see the final list of candidates. So, sometimes the arguments or the presentations are so compelling that you feel a need to change.
Right.
You really do. You're like, you know what? I undersold this person, or I overrated this person. And so, it's a tremendous exercise. And the one thing I really admire about everybody on the committee is just how much professional pride they all have when it comes to evaluation, preparation, and just keeping an open mind. It's a really important part of the process.
Good stuff. Well, let's get to the big topic today, and obviously that is Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Pierre, I believe the first Game 7 of the final we've had since pre-pandemic, when we had 2019 St. Louis Blues went into Boston behind Jordan Binnington and beat the Boston Bruins 4-1 at TD Garden to win their first Stanley Cup. Another team's looking for their first Stanley Cup this year, and that's the Florida Panthers. They're the home team, though, Pierre. And if you look at it, the last 3 Game 7s in the Stanley Cup Final have been won by the road team. Can you explain that phenomenon?
I can't. I think there's a lot of pressure. There's obviously so much pressure on everybody involved at this stage. I've never coached in a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Final. I broadcast a fair number of them in the last 24 years, but never participated in one as a coach or a player. So I would say that it's different. I'll give you an example. And this is not to disparage what St. Louis accomplished in 2019. If you really go and watch the tape of that game, especially the first period, and you see the utter domination of the Boston Bruins, and they couldn't close the deal because Jordan Binnington was so darn good. He was so darn good. And then a tough play by Marchand at the end of the first period, and all of a sudden St. Louis has a 2-0 lead. And basically they shut it down the rest of the way, and they deserve full marks for winning. But you could just see once Boston fell behind 2-0, the energy was almost tapped out of them. It was amazing. And I remember in 2013, it wasn't a Game 7, it was a Game 6 in Boston. Same thing. After Chicago scored twice with Bolin in particular, the Bolin goal, and then the Bickle goal, you could sense that it was faltering. And I remember Claude Julien saying this, Jimmy, before Bolin and Bickle scored. He said, fellas, we got to get back on our toes. We're on our heels. And he could sense it. He could feel it. And sure enough, the 2 quick strikes, and all of a sudden it's over. So I think the pressure, Jimmy, on the home team is so great that if you lose your way early, it's hard to get it back on the track. It really is.
As you say that, I'm thinking, it would be a great idea, and maybe they have already, for the coaches to show, the first period, maybe from that St. Louis game, for the road team, this is how you can do it on the road, and this is the home team, this is what you got to avoid at home. And I wonder if they've done that, but I'm with you, Pierre. I just remember you nailed it there when you said it drained the energy out of the building in that St. Louis Boston game, because it did. There was it was almost like there was nothing the Bruins could do, no matter how hard they tried. It was just like a fait accompli after that first period. So if you're the Florida Panthers, it's going to be important to have a great start there. Pierre, I want to rewind to yesterday. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl spoke to the media yesterday, and it was great. I believe it was Elliot Freeman had a question to ask them. So we're going to go to this clip right now, and I want to talk about this with you after.
Guys, for both of you, when you were kids and you scored the winning goal in the Stanley Cup Final, who were you?
Who was I?
Yes.
Leon in Germany, Cologne.
There must have been a player.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I was a player. I can't remember. I mean, Pavel Datsyuk was my favorite player growing up. But I think in those moments you're just yourself and you're just dreaming of being in those situations, and there's such a movie playing in your head, playing on the street or wherever you are, and it's special to be in that situation right now and get a chance to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Sid, but as Leon said, he was always. You always dreamt of yourself playing in that game and scoring that big goal or whatever. So, you're not sure you're ever going to get that opportunity, and here we are with that opportunity. We're excited about it.
So, Pierre, I want to ask great answers there by that. I love Leon's answer. Leon from Germany in Cologne. It was great. But I want to know when you're a coach going into these, and I know you said you've never coached in a Game 7, but you've coached in potential Stanley Cup clinchers.
Oh, I've coached in Game 7s. I haven't coached in the Stanley Cup Final Game 7. There's a big difference.
But when you're in a game and you potentially could clinch the Stanley Cup with a win, how much do you tell the guys you obviously want them to be serious and focused, but at the same time, enjoy the moment? How important is it for them to enjoy this moment and the magic of it?
I don't know how many interviews I did pregame over the course of my career at TSN and NBC, but it'd be a lot because I think I broadcast over 2,000 games. I always ended every interview with make sure you have fun out there.
Yeah,
it's probably the most important thing that gets overlooked because of the severity and the intensity of the moment. But I know that the late Toe Blake in Montreal used to have a thing with his team about if you could get your team to collectively laugh in the dressing room before a huge moment, obviously a Game 7 can be a huge moment, there's some bonding formula to that. It matters. And I never overlooked the opportunity to tell every player to enjoy having that moment in their life, but also have fun in that moment of their life. Because you never know, you may never get another chance. I think about Jaromir Jagr all the time. His first 2 years in the NHL, he won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
He never won it. He never won it again, and he's still playing hockey. That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's great. I'm with you too. I think it's very important to enjoy them. It's good that they're able to just sit there and sort of reflect on the moment they're in, dreaming of it and what it took to get here. I think that's very important. Here, I want to look back on Game 6. And one thing that struck me about that game, and look, they're human. I'm not blaming them for this, but I haven't really seen this happen with the Florida Panthers a lot, is when that offsides call went against them, that goal. I just felt like right there, that was it. They were deflated. And it seemed to me that they could not get past that moment. And I think one of the trademarks that has gotten the Florida Panthers to the Stanley Cup Final has been their ability to overcome moments like that. And when you see that not happening this late into a series in the Stanley Cup Final, and now you're heading into a Game 7, if you're Paul Maurice, what are you preaching to the guys right now?
You shouldn't have to say very much. It's all about you're dictating the terms you're on home ice. Usually the captaincy, the leadership in the room takes over now. Shouldn't have to say much. The only thing you probably want to focus in on is how we're going to make our power play better. There shouldn't be a lot of other adjustments. Start's important. Everybody knows that. Discipline's important. Everybody knows that. But I would say, Jimmy, Paul should be making sure his guys just understand that this is an important moment in the series. You work all year to get a Game 7 on home ice in the playoffs, especially in the Stanley Cup Final. Utilized everything you worked for over 82 games to own the right to have a Game 7 on your ice surface. So there's not much Paul should have to say. I think this is where the leadership of the team really has to kick in, Jimmy. I really do. But I agree with what you just said about Game 6.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that was handled very well on their bench. It was an emotional roller coaster, and you could see. for whatever reason, that's the first time we really saw Paul really upset over the course of the entire playoff. And I think that kind of resonated with his team. But this goes to something else, Jimmy. I believe, and I've been telling you this for 2 to 3 years now, once the puck makes contact with the top of the blue paint, I think it should be onside. Everything should be onside. And I've been saying that for a very long time to you and on Mitch Melnick's show. And now all of a sudden it's starting to gain some traction. That doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from the fact that Edmonton won Game 6. They won Game 6, so move on. But I do think the league needs to look at that going forward. I really believe that.
I'm with you, but I'm glad you saw what I saw there. I haven't seen Florida get that mentally distracted as they did from that setback there.
Agreed.
So Pierre, I want to switch gears right now. We'll get back to the game in a bit, but we got the draft coming up right now. We got free agency a week from today. Obviously, a lot of trade chatter going around. We've already had some trades last week. One that obviously I'm keeping tabs on is Linus Ullmark there. And a lot of stuff coming out of Ottawa where they're saying now that the Bruins have granted Ullmark permission to discuss a contract extension with the Ottawa Senators in order to facilitate this trade. Pierre, when it gets to that point, is it no turning back, or can things still go south and veer away?
Things can go south and veer away, depending on what the agent and the player's opinion is. The fact that Ullmark is really urgent, or his camp is urgent to accept the deal to Ottawa, tells me a lot. Tells me, one, there are people behind the scenes that are probably lobbying him. That's number one. Number two, he thinks that Ottawa is going to be a real good team, which they have the potential to be. Number three, he likes the talent and the style, or the potential style that they could play, maybe because his agent's familiar with the way Travis Green coaches. I don't know. But there's a lot that goes into this. Now, could it go south? Yeah, it could. What happens if he says, I want a 7-year deal, or I want an 8-year deal, and I want it at $6.5 to $7 million a year? It could go south. Yeah. But the fact that we're at this point now, or they're at this point now, says there's probably been a lot of legwork already done on behalf of the player by his agent, and the team has obviously done a lot of due diligence too.
Now, when the Bruins allow that to happen, right? Does that mean, are they expecting now that they'll get a better return because they're allowing that to happen there? They're allowing Ottawa to do this, or does that not play a role in that?
Could, but I don't know what Donnie has talked about with Steve. I have no idea. Donnie, obviously, Sweeney and Steve Stales. I have no idea what they've talked about. It is an interesting way to look at it from your point of view, Jimmy. I like what you just said, but I don't know. I just don't know.
If you're the Bruins, do you have to get a roster player and or a first-round pick in this return?
You gotta look at Ottawa's depth chart and where they have the most depth and where they want to clear. Because people don't really talk about it, but look at Ottawa's cap situation. It's not real healthy. They're, in terms of, they spent a lot of money on young players coming out of entry level and gave them significant long-term, whether it's Josh Norris, Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, Tommy Shabbat, Jake Sanderson. They've given a lot of money out to young guys coming out of entry level with serious term. So you got to look at that. I would imagine Ottawa's going to want to move some money to Boston.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And final question on this, Pierre. There's also been some rumors that maybe Philly gets involved as a third team in this. We've seen that a lot over the last couple of years, Pierre. How much is this connected to the salary cap? And how much is it just connected to getting the right players or the right pieces that each team needs?
Great question, and really well phrased by you, Jimmy. I think it's all about the cap. A lot, back in the, I remember being part of teams, whether it was in Pittsburgh, Hartford, Ottawa, being part of three-way deals. Had nothing to do with money. More times than not, had to do with player assets. So, that's, I'll give you an example. I remember when Brian Burke made a three-way deal, Hartford, Calgary, and San Jose. Calgary really wanted veteran presence, so they got Sergei Makarov because that was where their team was at that point. They wanted to win. San Jose had their eye on a Russian player that they thought they could get way deeper into the draft, Viktor Kozlov, so they were prepared to trade 5. And Brian Burke really wanted Christopher Pronger, and that's all on Brian Burke. He did a masterful job. So that deal is a perfect example of going against. There was no salary cap then.
Mm-hmm.
It was identifying organizational need. Everybody left that draft satisfied. Calgary was satisfied. Obviously, San Jose was very satisfied, and Hartford eventually was extremely satisfied.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is starting to happen more again. All right, let's go. Pierre, I know you're pressed for time, so let's get over to our great, wonderful fans and viewers in a bit to answer their questions. But first, I want to tell you about our new sponsor, Betway. We're really excited to have them on. Let's pull that up right there. And look, as I told you before, Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go to Betway. Go on betway.com or scan that QR code if you're watching on YouTube right now, right in front of you, underneath Pierre, to join the action. You must be 18 plus and play responsibly. I will have a pick after we answer our questions here for Game 7. I've actually got 2 for you. Been on a little roll here, so you might want to stay tuned for that. But let's get over to our other sponsor, who, you know, if all things considered, you need to move like the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers have been going across the continent. You need to move your life or your business there. You want to go to TCS Customs and Logistics and unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that's sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. All right, let's get to our questions here on a Monday morning before Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. What do we got? Randy Workman. What's up, Randy? Good morning. Jimmy, who do you think the Bruins will trade Allmark to before the draft? But as we were just saying, Randy, right now it really looks like the Ottawa Senators. That looks like, you know, a 99%, I'd say, destination. But as Pierre pointed out, anything can happen. And if something was to happen, as I stated here on Friday, I do believe there's been interest from the Detroit Red Wings. I've heard some other teams, but I haven't really been able to confirm it enough to say they're in it as well to report that. So I'm just going to say, if there's one other team right now, I would look at the Detroit Red Wings. All right, next question. Evan McLaren, guys, talk to us about adjustments. What did the Oilers do to open up the middle of the ice after 2 or 3 games of pain? And what are the Panthers failing to do? Pierre, I'll let you answer that.
Well, first of all, I think the Panthers didn't handle it after Game 3 extremely well in the media or in their preparation for Game 4. That's why they lost 8-1. I also think the Stars came out to play for Edmonton, and I do think there's some nicked up bodies on the back end for Florida. There's a multitude of things that I think have gone against Florida and for Edmonton. Stars for Edmonton have showed up, and the depth players for Edmonton have showed up.
That's a big one.
So that's been a big thing. But I do think there's some nicked up people on the back end for Florida. I also think that they lost their way after Game 3 as a group, and it's hard to get it back. It's hard to get it back. And all you got to go do is go listen and read some of the press interviews, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's hard to do. Look, if you don't have a lot of experience, stuff like that happens. And they don't have a lot of experience in that dressing room when it comes to Stanley Cups.
Yeah, and Pierre, great point by you listening to the interviews. How about just during the game when the cameras honed in on the players on the Florida bench late in the game? Carter Verhaeghe specifically had that 1,000-mile stare like, what the heck has just happened? So they need to change that look. They need to change it within as well going forward. And good to have Evan on again. I know we're on Europe time, so he can do this. All right, next question. Samuel Matei. Good morning, guys. Good morning to you, Samuel. Do you both expect this game to be the most loosely officiated game in the playoffs, or do you expect it to be consistent with the series so far? Great question, Sam. Pierre, what do you think?
Go ahead. Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think there'll probably be maximum 2 penalties per team and probably closer to 1. Both teams will probably self-monitor in terms of discipline. Mm-hmm. And if you start to see stick violations being called early in the game, it's because the referees want to send a message to the teams. But I don't expect a lot of penalties in this game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's going to look a lot like 2011 Game 7 Tampa Bay Boston. Remember that one, Pierre?
Oh, yeah, I do.
No penalties at all.
1-0 Boston. I do remember.
Yeah.
Tim Thomas was really good.
Yep. All right, next question. Vincent Yoel. What's up, Vince? Another great show, gentlemen. After a player gets drafted, how much time do they have with their families, or how much of the rest of the day is spent in getting things organized with the team? That's a great question. Pierre, you would know this better than me.
Well, the first round picks usually are a little bit longer with the team. Usually at the end of the day. So day one is Friday. Obviously, the team will have a reception back at their hotel. They have a big suite, and there'll be, hors d'oeuvres and people, feeling good about themselves, celebrating what the scouts have done, the selection, and everybody moves forward. And then at the end of day two, it's the same thing. Family members are invited to that. So usually if you're, from the second round to the seventh round, you go down, you get your sweater, you do a couple press questions, and then you're right with your family and you celebrate, obviously an amazing accomplishment in your hockey career, but it's just a start. It's just the start of it. But you get the teams are really professional about this, and they have been for a very long time.
Pierre, one thing I've noticed in the last say 5 years is the development camps have been pushed up and they're earlier. I'm wondering, is that because these kids are drafted and you can tell, they're going to go right from Vegas to wherever team drafts them to that development camp, because those are all starting on Monday, or prospect camps, they call them, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is that because they don't want the kids to have any time in between? They want them to be able to get right into it, start to assimilate into the team culture and all that?
That's part of it. I think another part of it too is you don't want it dragging out into July. You want to get it off as soon as you can so kids can actually have a summer. These are long seasons for most of these players. And they also want to get them, obviously, to learn what the team's about and the conditioning level. Most kids get to the pro level and they think they work hard. And then they go to a pro camp and they're like, oh, boy, maybe I need to readjust how I train and how I work. I've got a guy that has been with me for 5 or 6 years now. And 2 years ago, he was an NHL pick. He was a third-round pick. His first year he went to camp, I told him, I said, you're not ready. His second year, he was much more ready. And I told him the other day, you are now ready to dominate the camp.
That's awesome.
But that's how long it takes. Kids have to figure it out. And now he's ready. He's going to go to this camp and he's going to dominate the camp. And I'm not surprised.
All right. Next question. Alex Ivanowski. What do you think of the Michkov news, and where does this put the Flyers in their overall plan? Is this still a rebuild for now? Yeah, Pierre, interesting news, huh?
Yes, very interesting news. But here's the thing. To be fair to the Canadians, because I know a lot of their fans are angry, nobody knew that this was going to happen, including the Flyers, by the way. So let's get real about that. Good for them. It really hastens and speeds up their rebuild. There's no question. But I think it's important to manage expectation. This is a player that's never really played on small ice. This is a player that's 19 years of age playing against men. I know he's in unbelievable shape. I know that he's done a lot of, good things. I went and scouted him. So, when I was working in my previous life. And so I have full admiration and respect for the player. That being said, to put the entire thing on his shoulders, I think is a mistake. I think it's really important to manage the expectation on the player. He's probably a couple years away from being a superstar, but he's going to be a superstar in the league.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I'm glad you said that about the Canadians right now, because they are taking a PR beating here, which I think is completely unfair. Like you said, the Flyers didn't even know that.
No. If they knew about it, you would have heard about it in May or March. Now, I know some of their bloggers were speculating it, but the team had no idea.
Right.
They had no idea that this guy was coming out.
So, and you know what? I still think you got a good player in Reinbacher. I think people are underselling.
He's a really good player.
Yeah.
He's a really good player.
All right, next question. One more question from Vincent here. After a GM makes a trade, how often does it happen that another GM calls up and says, man, how did you get so-and-so for X, Y, Y? Or what do you think that kid is washed up?
Well, I've never heard them say that kid is washed up, but I've had other people tell me, how'd you get that player? I mean, that's a phenomenal accomplishment for your organization. I know somebody that said to a general manager, hey, if you did that on the street, you'd be going to jail because that's theft, Yep. So, yeah, guys like to joke around all the time. But, the one thing I'll say about the NHL decision makers, there's a huge respect amongst them. I'm talking about the managers.
Yeah.
There are only 32 jobs in the league, and it's a really hard job. And all the guys, no, they don't all get along, but they all, I believe, in my experience anyways, they all respect one another. And I think that's really important.
I was told by someone that Michael Connell got a lot of calls after he traded Joe Thornton to the San Jose Sharks before kind of having an auction for him. And people were wondering, what was that? But I'll just think back to that when I hear that question. All right, next question. All right, Naz 26. Now that Nedeljkovic is signed, do you believe Jarry will be traded before the season? I think that's a fair question. I just don't know if they want to do that yet. I could see that happening next year, Pierre, when they bring up Blomqvist, is it, the prospect?
Bloomquist.
Bloomqvist, yeah.
So here's the one thing I'd say, Jimmy, on that. And this is really important. If you think Pittsburgh, and if you're the management and the coaching staff, if you think your team is a legitimate candidate to be a playoff team and you need Tristan Jarry to do it, you're not trading him. But if you think your team is still in the development stage, you are probably going to do what you think is best to make the team grow faster, and that is probably to trade Tristan Jarry. I don't know, Jimmy, how they view their team right now. I know it's been said to ownership, but I don't know if that's exactly how the coaching staff and the management team feels. They don't want to waste years of Malcolm Crosby and Letang not making the playoffs. They've had 2 straight years of no playoffs. A 3rd straight year of no playoffs would be disastrous for them.
Yep, I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Max R. If Florida loses, can they recover from that, or do you expect that next season to be rough? You know, Pierre and I were talking about this on the phone the other day. I think well, first of all, there's going to be big changes no matter what because of the salary cap. Some players are not going to be able to keep in free agency. As far as above that, I don't know. I asked Pierre this, and we both sort of said, well, we'll see. You know?
Oh, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. My thing for them is, look, you can't worry about down the road. You got to worry about tonight.
Yeah.
If you're a Florida Panther person, whether you're the owner, whether you're the manager, whether you're the coach, whether you're the stick boy, doesn't matter. You're worried about tonight. Anything different than that, you're going to have a problem. So worry about tonight. We'll talk tomorrow about what happens, you know, but tonight is all about tonight. You can't worry about down the road.
I'm with you on that. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you guys see a lot of trades for the draft? Yes.
I do. We didn't rehearse that. I do. There's a lot of chatter. There's a ton of chatter right now. You know, Philadelphia's engaged, New York Rangers, New York Islanders, New Jersey's already made some deals. Toronto, I think, is trying to be super active. Calgary has been active already. No, I think you'll see trades.
Yeah, and how about the reports out of Vegas too, Pierre? A lot of teams calling about their goalie tandem, and maybe if they can pry one of those guys away from them. So we'll see what happens.
Vegas never stands still.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That's just how they do it. That's good though. I really respect those guys. They do their business hard and they're intense, and I like it.
Yep. I can't wait to get out there. All right, next question. Evan McLaren. I'm a Hershey guy, so I was interested to hear Bob Hartley's name come up in speculation around potential hirings in Columbus. What do you think they need behind the bench there? I had not heard that, Pierre, but that's an interesting hire.
I'll tell you why. That goes back to Waddell was a general manager in Atlanta, and Hartley worked for him.
Oh,
so and Bob's been coaching over in Russia, over in Omsk. And so could there be a potential there? Yeah, there could for sure. Bob's got a lot of experience. He's been around a lot. I don't know if the team is in that stage of their development yet. It'll be interesting to see what direction Donnie chooses to go. But there is a previous relationship between Hartley and Waddell. And I don't think that can be underscored in a bad way. I think it's got to be underscored in a positive way for Bob Hartley. Bob's a really good coach. It just comes down to what's your appetite for wanting to coach. You know, what do you need in a coach at this point? But Bob's a very good coach.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, who are the leading candidates to coach Laval? Great question, Ron. In case everybody's wondering why he's saying that, I think since we were last on, I think it happened after.
JF Rule went to Clarkson. Yeah.
Did that catch you by surprise, Pierre?
No, I heard about it last week. I just
Okay.
didn't want to say anything on the air because I wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put a guy who had just signed an extension with the team, and Uhl had just
Mm-hmm.
signed an extension with Montreal. I didn't want to put him in a bad spot. But no, it didn't catch me by surprise at all. Look, at Clarkson's a reputable program, tremendous program. They've done some really good things there over the course of their, hockey program. I respect so much, whether it was a late Lenny Siglarski or Jerry York or Billy O'Flaherty,
Just gonna
George
say,
Roll, Mark Morris. They've had Casey Jones. They've had a lot of really good coaches there over the course of time. And I coached against them for a lot of years, and I have a lot of respect for Clarkson, the way they conduct their hockey business.
well, what do you think in Laval? Who do you think
Don't
could wind
know.
up? Yeah,
Don't know.
I think it's at the beginning stages.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't think there's a huge priority. The one thing I'd say is they've got their development camp coming, obviously. Maybe they go with somebody that's already in house.
Mhm.
I don't want to say any names because I have some pretty good ideas who their in-house candidates would be, or maybe they go outside. I don't know.
All right, we shall see. Next question. Steve Pouliot. Hey, guys, huge fan of New Hampshire. Hey, Steve, fellow New Hampshire man. Who do you think the Habs pick at number 5?
Well, I'm going to still say I think Yzerman's on the list there. I really do. I'm not going to change that. If Iginla's still on the board, he might be a guy that they look at. But I think scoring is going to be a very big part of how the Canadiens draft at the 5th hole.
I'm with you. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque. Who will Montreal pick to run the AHL club? As we just answered that one, Ron. Sorry. All right, next question. Alex Evanowski. What did you think of the Arizona news? What a mess. I feel bad for the Arizona hockey fans, but it seems like hockey in the desert isn't happening anytime soon. Pierre, I do too, and I think it's a horrible mess, but part of me is happy that this will force Morello to be out of the situation, and I think in the long run, that's better for Arizona. That's what I'll say on it. You don't have to say that. I know. Your look says it all. Let's go to the next question. Naz 26. If you were management, would you trade Gooley for someone like Natchez or another top 6 forward? I'm holding on to Gooley, man.
No,
I
I'm
love
not
it.
trading Gooley. No.
Yeah.
No way. Guy can play left or right side. He can log 20 to 27 minutes a game. He can eventually be on your second power play. He's one of your top penalty killers. You can feel like a matchup guy, elite puck mover down the road. No way. I'm not trading that guy. No way.
All right. I think we have one more question, or is that it, guys? There we go. Thanks, producer Jimmy. State of survival. Would it have made a difference if Florida did a goalie change in any of the games 4, 5, and 6, either for the game or during the game?
Well, they did in 4. They pulled
Yeah, I was just
Bobrovsky
going to say
in 4.
they did in 4.
Didn't work.
Yep.
I didn't think Bobrovsky played a good game 5. I didn't think he did, especially the McDavid goal through the 5-hole from a bad angle. I didn't like that. But
Game 6, I don't put on him, though, Pierre.
No, there's no way.
No.
Look, Florida's got to be better as a team. And I told Jimmy this, and I'm not being an I told you so. I was, as somebody that's been around it a lot, I was really disappointed after Game 3 to see the way they handled the media.
Yeah.
I didn't. You got to respect. I'm not saying they disrespected the process, but the process is one that's really, it's intense. It's hard, and you never put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot of guys were putting the cart before the horse after Game 3. And they got blown out in 4, and they've never been able to get it back on the track again, at least not until potentially tonight.
And I just want to echo that as well, Pierre. And I mentioned this to you too. Like, a lot of times players will tell us that they don't pay attention to that stuff, and there's no such thing as bulletin board material, and they don't look at their clippings and all that. Pierre, I want to tell the listeners what I told you about Jaylen Brown on the Celtics and the T-shirt he wore in the parade the other day. For this, just to prove that these players have memories. And this is short memory we're talking about. This guy wears a shirt that says "State Your Source," and it's directed at Stephen A. Smith, who, when he was drafted by the Boston Celtics years ago, I think it was 2016 or 2017. He said, my sources are telling me this guy's not a character guy. This could go down as the worst pick in Celtics history. Jaylen Brown remembered that when they won the world title and made sure to send a statement. So you can bet that the Edmonton Oilers saw what was said after game 3 and fed off it, and they've used that fuel to get where they are now.
Hey, I'm going to tell you one from 1991. I was involved with it. After they beat us in game 1, Minnesota North Stars, and they had a lot of veteran people that had won the cup, starting with their head coach, Bob Gainey, he won 4 or 5 cups in Montreal as a player. And he had nothing to do with it. But the players, I don't know how this happened, but they were talking about measuring their rings and what the style of the ring would be. And we, back then there was no internet, so we got the clippings and we put it up in our dressing room.
Of course.
You don't think that resonated with our players? Like, what? Meanwhile, what they didn't know is that we had lost game 1 to New Jersey in the first round. We lost game 1 to Washington in the second round, and we lost the first 2 games in the third round to Boston.
Yeah.
We still came out one. So, bad decision. We ended up winning that series in 6 games, and we won game 6, 8-0.
Wow. Yeah, that's way too early. At least the Panthers did it after game 3. Like, wow. All right. It is time for Murph's Sick Picks here, brought to you by Betway. Let's put it up right now.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right. I mean, if you're looking at the game lines on this right now, if you go over to betway.com, you're going to find it's pretty much a pick 'em almost. The Florida Panthers are at -118, and the Edmonton Oilers are at -112 on the money line. The puck line gets you +235, -1.5 to the Florida Panthers there. Look, I think this is going to be a toss-up. I really do. But I do think that the Edmonton Oilers are going to pull off arguably the biggest comeback in Stanley Cup playoff history. The first in the Stanley Cup final from a 3-0 deficit since 1942. The Edmonton Oilers win this game 3-2 is my prediction. And I'm going to go again with Connor McDavid at +140 to score an anytime goal. So there's your picks for that. I hope everybody out there enjoys the game. Pierre, safe travels to you, my friend. Where are you going to be watching the game tonight?
In my hotel room. It's like a school night for me. I'll be in my hotel room doing final preparation for my presentations tomorrow. But I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Jimmy, I hate to do this. I got to run. Yeah, for sure. And there goes Pierre McGuire off to Toronto for the Hall of Fame induction committee announcement that will happen tomorrow. I want to thank our listeners and viewers for all your questions as usual. Thanks to production Jimmy over there in the studio in Montreal. He's helping in as our whole staff is all over the place right now. We got some guys in Boston. I'm here broadcasting at home in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Guys are heading to Vegas tomorrow. So Jimmy's our man, and we're really loving working with him. He's going to be the man making things work behind the scenes as this week goes on and we all filter out to Vegas. He's got you covered, and I'll get you covered here. We hope to have a guest tomorrow, working on a special guest for that. And then I've got some guests lined up for when we're in Vegas. Again, once I have details of our location, where we will be, I will give them to you. So if you're in Vegas, you can come over and say hi to me, and we can meet in person. Love meeting you guys. We had a great pleasure doing that at some other remotes we've done in Montreal and Springfield, Mass. So I look forward to that. But for everyone right now, enjoy this game, no matter who you're cheering for. It's going to be a classic, an historic moment in NHL history. Game 7, Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.